Good evening, everyone, and happy fourth week of Advent, which we're coming upon. And the fourth week of Advent is when we celebrate love. And there's another important day that is coming up on the 21st, and that is the winter solstice. And it's a time to celebrate the returning of the light. And there's so many traditions around the world that have to do with the returning of the light, because when it's so dark right now, it's really nice when the days start getting longer again. So first, I'm going to tell you about some of the different figures that are related to solstice in different places in the world, and then I am going to read you a story, because this is our Christmas seaside session, since I will be off next week. So I thought I'd do something a little different and a little bit fun. And no matter what your age, it's great to be read a story. So there's various traditions surrounding the solstice, and there's way too many that I could give an overview. So I just wanted to focus on a few and some of the monsters and some of the gods and goddesses that are associated with the solstice. Now, in Finnish mythology, it's told that Louis, who is the witch goddess of the north, has kidnapped the sun and the moon, and she holds them captive inside a mountain, and that's what caused the darkness of winter. Now, Barbara Cooney, the same author who wrote the book about the Lupin Lady, Miss Rumphius, she illustrated this beautiful story of Louis and kidnapping the sun and the moon. And whenever I see the moon in the crook of a birch tree, I think of that book, because the tree was holding the moon up in that book. And unfortunately, I can't find it. It's somewhere. It's probably at my parents' house. So I'm not going to be reading that book, but I do have another good book to read to you. Now, the Yupik peoples, indigenous to the Arctic, tell the story of Kogukpak. And these were subterranean monsters that lived underground, and they had these very bulbous bodies and frog-like legs, and they could only be killed by the sun. On the winter solstice, they emerged to hunt, and mammoth carcasses were said to be the corpses of the ones who stayed out too long and died when the sun returned. In Greek mythology, let's see if I can get this word, the Kalakantzaros were angry and hairy gnome-like creatures, and they also lived underground, and they tried to cut down the tree of life. And like Kogukpak of the Yukik peoples, the Kalakantzaros could only be killed by sunlight. And so they would emerge during the solstice to wreak havoc on people's homes and their villages. But they were supposedly not too bright, and they couldn't count past 3. So the villagers put out colanders to warn them off. So they would end up trying to count all the holes in the colanders until sunrise. And then they'd have to go back underground before they could cause any mischief. So I think that's such a fun story. There's also some deities associated with the solstice, like in Italian folklore. La Befana is a goddess who rides around the world on her broom during solstice. It makes you think of witches at Halloween, huh? And she leaves candies and gifts to well-behaved children. And placing a rag doll in her likeness by the front door or their window would help entice her into your home. Now, the Tomten is a Scandinavian mythical figure. And there's various versions of him, and he's also called Nisei. And he's usually depicted as no taller than 3 feet tall, and with a long white beard and a pointy red wool hat. The stories of the Tomten come down from hundreds of years of oral tradition. And in these oral stories, he has shown to be both kind, but also sneaky, and helpful, but also devious. And in many of the stories, he takes up residence at a farm, and he only appears to the children, and he helps take care of the farm animals. He protects the farm animals from harm, and he can have a temper towards farmers who don't treat their livestock well. And a bowl of porridge is often set out for Tomten in order to stay on his good side. Now, there was a poem written by the Tomten about the Tomten, and there was an author that took that poem and turned it into a storybook. The author is Astrid Lindgren. And if the name sounds maybe a little bit familiar to you, she was also the author of the Pippi Longstocking books. And this is the book, the Tomten, that I'm going to read to you. Now, instead of taking photos of all the illustrations and adding them to the video, which is a little bit better presentation, but instead of doing that, I'm just going to try to hold up the book. But I'm not going to do it library style like this, because I want to try to get you, I want you to be able to really see the images. So unfortunately, the binding seems to be coming apart. So my plan is to probably just do it like this and read it from the back. So you won't see me, but that's okay. So this book, oh yeah, it's the binding. All right, it's a bad idea. This book is The Tomten by Astrid Lindgren. Here. And it is illustrated by Harold Weiberg. Right. In the dead of night, it is the dead of night. The old farm lies fast asleep, and everyone inside the house is sleeping too. The farm is deep in the middle of the forest. Once upon a time, someone came here, cut down trees, built a homestead, and farmed the land. No one knows who. The stars are shining in the sky tonight. The snow lies white all around, and the frost is cruel. On such a night, people creep into their small houses, wrap themselves up, and bank the fire on the hearth. Here is a lonely old farm where everyone is sleeping. All but one. See this, okay, I think that's a little bit better. The Tomten is awake. He lives in a corner of the hayloft and comes out at night when human beings are asleep. He's an old Tomten who has seen the snow of many hundreds of winters. No one knows when he came to the farm. No one have ever seen him, but they know he's there. Sometimes when they wake up, they see the prints of his feet in the snow, but no one has seen the Tomten. With small, silent feet, the Tomten moves about in the moonlight. He peeps into cowshed and stable, storehouse and tool shed. He goes between the buildings, making tracks in the snow. Oh, I'm ruining the binding. Is falling apart on this book. It's a very old book. It was read to me when I was a kid, so it's sort of falling apart, fortunately. The Tomten first goes to the cowshed. Their cows are dreaming that summer is here and that they are grazing in the fields. The Tomten talks to them in Tomten language, a silent little language that the cows can understand. Winters come and winters go. Summers come and summers go. Soon you can graze in the fields. The moon is shining into the stable. There stands Dobbin, thinking perhaps he remembers a clover field where he trotted around last summer. The Tomten talks to him in Tomten language, a silent little language a horse can understand. Winters come and winters go. Summers come and summers go. Soon you will be in your clover field. Now all the sheep and lambs are sleeping soundly, but they bleat softly when Tomten peeps in at the door. He talks to them in a Tomten language, a silent little language the sheep can understand. All my sheep, all my lambs, the night is cold, but your wool is warm, and you have aspen leaves to eat. Then on small silent feet, the Tomten goes to the chicken house, and the chickens cluck contentedly when he comes. He talks to them in Tomten language, a silent little language chickens can understand. Lay me an egg, my jolly chickens, and I will give you corn to eat. The dog kennel roof is white with snow, and inside is Caro. Every night he waits for the moment when Tomten will come. The Tomten is his friend, and he talks to Caro in Tomten language, a silent little language a dog can understand. Caro, my friend, is it cold tonight? Are you cold in your kennel? I'll fetch more straw, and then you can sleep. House where the people live is silent. They are sleeping through the winter night without knowing that the Tomten is there. Winters come and winters go. I have seen people large and small, but never have they seen me, thinks the Tomten. He tiptoes across to the children's cot and stands looking for a long time. If they would only wake up, then I could talk to them in the Tomten language, a silent little language children can understand. But children sleep at night. And away goes the Tomten on his little feet. In the morning, the children see his tracks, a line of tiny footprints in the snow. Then the Tomten goes back to his cozy little corner in the hayloft. There, in the hay, the cat is waiting for him, for she wants milk. The Tomten talks to the cat in Tomten language, a silent little language a cat can understand. Of course you may stay with me, and of course I will give you milk, says the Tomten. Winter is long and dark and cold, and sometimes Tomten dreams of summer. Winters come and winters go. Summers come and summers go. Soon the swallows will be here, thanks Tomten. But the snow still lies in deep drifts around the old farm and the forest. The stars shine in the sky. It is biting cold. On such a night, people creep into their small homes and bank the fire on the hearth. Here is a lonely old farm where everyone is asleep, all but one. Winters come and summers go, years follows year. But as long as people live at the old farm in the forest, every night the Tomten will trip around between the houses on his small, silent feet. And that is the story of the Tomten. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas. And I will see you in the new year.